Okay.
We'll just get going.
Okay. So Rabbi Wolf's going to start it. I expect it to be both seats to be filled. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think even later one
Yeah,
of
like
those.
it's she's sick.
Oh, she's sick.
Who's sick? Okay. Oh, what's wrong with her?
That was a cold, but it's getting worse, so she thinks maybe it's been lasting a few days.
You mean flu-like symptoms? Okay, we're not going there. Okay, so anyways,
About 12 students in Jerusalem in a
I
nunnery.
think it came
Oh,
in
yeah,
later.
In a nunnery, there's a school in East Jerusalem, right? And what happened was these children all went to Italy,
Right.
and the nuns would not allow them to get tested. And apparently, there's some now who they think are very ill, and they won't let them take the time off to be in isolation.
What?
And they're going to try and catch
Where
them.
did you read that?
Just yesterday in the Jerusalem Post.
oh yeah, okay.
Big one.
Hashem Yazor. Maybe I should have picked a different topic, talk about the plagues. But okay,
That's next one.
that's next month. Next month
Hold on.
Maybe
Okay.
for Pesach.
We got some new people.
Okay, they're not coming in. They're not coming in masks, are they? Okay. Okay.
Kay's new, and this is Leah, and this is Akiva.
Hi, welcome.
Well, no money.
Uh,
I didn't think you understand boots.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll get a chance to say hello better later. Okay. So what I really want to talk about is is one of the three major aspects of Purim. We did this last year, for those of you that remember, that there's a famous Mishnah that says, how much of the Megillah do you have to read? So the first answer is all of it. The second answer is from when we introduce Mordechai, and the third answer is from when we introduce Haman. So we're saying that basically there are three. No, don't do that because we're going to mention a lot. The third opinion is that the most important aspect of understanding the Chag is the holiday is not really a Chag, there's no Korban Chagiga, but understanding the festivity is to understand the anti-Semitism and the attack of Haman. You don't have a story without the villain. And so it's that third of the three opinions I want to talk about this year. And I got to be honest, this idea has been percolating in my head for about, I'm going to say a month. But a month ago, I met with someone that some of you may know. I had never heard of him before. His name is Matthew Kalman, who apparently is a well-known English journalist and has had his own publication in England for many years, and was actually asked to be the editor-in-chief of the Chronicle, and because of many infightings turned it down. But an interesting conversation with him, and in the conversation, he was talking about the recent English election, and a number of his friends, even MPs who were part of the labor movement, voted against Labor. They didn't necessarily vote for the Tories, for the Conservative Party, but they voted against Labor because of Corbyn. And that Corbyn brought people, it didn't happen initially at the beginning of the campaign, but by the end of the campaign, a number of Jews in the Labor Party were identifying publicly as Jews for the first time in many years because of Corbyn. And when he said that this idea started, and I didn't really pay close enough attention to the English elections. I didn't realize it, and it dawned on me that really feeds into the Purim story, and that all of Jews living in Galut are a variation on Persia, right? I mean, they're all the Galiot are variations on each other. And that story sort of reminded me of a famous aspect here. So we're going to take a look at at this aspect. And it begins with the page that starts with Hebrew at the top. And I apologize. I think I made that Hebrew a little bit too small, but we'll muddle through. So this is the beginning of the third chapter of the Megillah, which according to the third opinion in the Mishnah is where you must begin the Megillah to be Yotzei. Okay, so what happened? Gidel HaMelech et Achashverosh. Achashverosh et Haman. So Achashverosh rose, made great Haman, Ha'agagi, the Agagite, and that gets us into the Amalek situation, which we'll touch on later. V'nesu v'yasam et kis'o me'al kol hasarim asher ito. And he was made the prime minister. He was head of all of the other officialdom in the land. He was the number one vizier, prime minister, whatever term you want to use. And then v'chol of the Melech asher b'shar Melech karim ishtachavim lahaman. Okay, because that's what Hashem. That's what the king commanded. Everybody's got to bow to Achash to Haman. Hi, how are you? Hi. Oh, the twin helmets. So nice. Yes.
The difference is that the guy in England became a corpus.
Whoa. Okay. Multilingual puns. Excellent. So anyways, what happens is we now have Haman as a factor in the story. But a couple of the Meforshim, the first one is the Malbim, the second one is the Gemara, talk about what does it mean after these things? What is the context that we're describing? Because we said after these things, what things? So we need a context. So the Malbim writing in the mid-19th century was the Pashtan par excellence. He was the great literalists of our rabbinic authorities on Tanakh. And he says, the commentaries explain, Ki acha shenishkach Achashverosh she'Esther higid zot b'shem Mordechai. The story that ends chapter 2, he says this means after these things is immediately after chapter 2. Chapter 2 ends with the story of Bigtan and Teresh, who were trying to poison the king. Mordechai tells Esther. Esther tells Achashverosh b'shem Mordechai, and we learned from this a very famous halakha. If you say things in the name of the author, you bring geula, redemption, to the world. So it's very important to give credit where credit is due. And so he forgot. Achashverosh forgot. And why is this important? This is important because in one way of looking at the story, the change of Jewish situation comes when Haman has to take Mordechai through the streets. Until that point in the story, Haman looks ascendant and the Jews look mamish in the butts, really in difficulty. And that's the first time where we have Jewish success in the story. So that, in other words, after this moment when Achashverosh forgot to give a reward to Mordechai, that's when Haman arises, because that forgetfulness was the trigger for the change of the fortunes of the Jews within the Persian Empire. So in other words, somehow the roots of or the seeds, better, of our future redemption was in that forgetfulness of the king, which shouldn't have happened. It gets written in the book. I mean, it's like it got onto the national computer system, and it shouldn't be forgotten, but it was. And that mistake led to a major change in Jewish fortunes. That's the Malbim. The Gemara it was based on a midrash in Megillah. Achad v'ma'ele, my achar. What does it mean? Achar demashma sheyesh shaychut Ligedulat Haman ima inyan sha'ad ko. It means that the raising up of Haman has to be understood in light of everything that has happened until now. And why is that important? Because what happened until now? Until now, we have Esther becoming the queen. And that is very important. So Amar Ravam at the end of the second line, Acha Shabara Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Rifai. And this brings us to a famous rabbinic position, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu always brings the refuah before the makkah. God always puts in place the solution to the problem before the problem arises. And this idea is not only a powerful idea in the Megillah, but this is Shlomo Avinir, who's the chief rabbi of Beit El, and a very popular, relatively right-wing rabbinic authority here in Israel. I must be honest, I don't agree with him on every topic, but he thinks about things very, very beautifully. And he says, Lachain, because of this principle that Hashem always has prepared the refuah before the makkah, he says, Lachain, therefore, Gam b'yameinu, ein tzarich lidog. In our days too, there's no reason to worry. You know, what, me, worry? Why? Ribbon Shalom, Hechin refuah l'chol hamakot sheyesh lanu po ba'aretz. God has already prepared all of the solutions to all of the problems that exist now within our country. He goes on to talk about Iran and Iraq. And I mean, we could, of course, add, coronavirus. Whatever it is, somehow the solution is already available on the scene. And this is a tremendous point of emunah and bitachon for Rav Avinir. It's a very beautiful idea. I sometimes have trouble with it. Okay, when you start talking about things like the Holocaust, and you could say that Aliyah and the Jewish Agency began, so there was a refuah for the Makkah. But saying that, I mean, sometimes the Makkah is so bad that the fact that there's a refuah in place doesn't give you very much solace. But it's an interesting point, but ultimately not the point I want to make.
Does he only mean in a prati kind of situation?
He only means in a Jewish context.
Okay. In a national.
Now, is this Jewish national context? Correct. In other words, this is part of the hashgacha pratit of Klal Yisrael. It's not necessarily true of the world at large. But this is it. This gets into a whole philosophy of what do we mean by hashgacha pratit and hashgacha klalit, that there is general supervision of the world, which we tend to call nature and science, and then there's hashgacha pratit, the divine supervision that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves for Klal Yisrael and for Medina Yisrael, and it gets into but in the bigadol, he means, in the big picture, he means for the Jewish nation. Correct. That's actually a good question. Thank you. So bearing that in mind, we have a very weird custom, as you all know, on Purim, which is that we should always drink on Purim. Baruch Mordechai and Ara Haman, that we're supposed to drink on Purim until we can't distinguish between the. Now, this is, I'm going to translate it literally, but we have to look at it conceptually. It means between blessing Mordechai and cursing Haman, but you can say it slightly differently, between being happy about the good things and being sad about the bad things. Because, of course, Mordechai represents the good stuff and Haman represents the bad stuff. And so you have to drink until that point. Now, before we go on to where I really want to go with this idea, I want to say something about drinking on Purim, which is, I'm against it. And people that people that know me, I see Dina's smiling because in the show we are lunch light for the last for 16 years in Stamford in southwestern Connecticut, back in the States, and I used to put up signs before Purim that were put out by Hatzalah about how dangerous it is to drink on Purim, and when I was in yeshiva in the 80s and the 90s in Efrat, I was always once you got to the month that we're in now, Adar, I was always referred to as the Grinch, because I always came out against drinking, and that is very strongly my position. I like the idea that's brought down in the Rambam. Have a little bit more liquor than you usually have. If you usually don't have any, which is basically us, then have something, and then you take a little dribble, a little nap. And after the drinking that put you to sleep, you don't know the difference, and you yotze the concept. The dangers of the drinking are just too great. And the single busiest day for emergency rooms in Israel is Purim.
Not Yom Kippur on the bicycles?
The busiest day. Yom Kippur isn't even 2. 2 is, anyone want to guess what 2 is? Lag BaOmer. 2 is Lag BaOmer, burns. Burns. But number 1, it's not even close, is Purim. Once you hear that statistic in Brooklyn and in the Monsey area, Hatzalah, far and away their busiest day, without nothing even competes with it, is Purim. Once you hear these statistics, right away you say, I'm not going to drink on Purim. So I'm really against that, and I just wanted to get that out of the way. But now I'm going to tell you what, according to the Slonim Rebbe, what it really means. Libisume, to imbibe. I think that's a nice translation. Libisume, to imbibe until you can't tell the difference. So the Slonim Rebbe died in 2000. And he was head of a Chassidut that was basically wiped out in the war. And he, against his uncle, the Rebbe's advice, had come to Eretz Yisrael around 1930. He literally ran away from home. And when he got here, his uncle, who found out he had run away, sent a letter to Eretz Yisrael. Who knows how long it took that letter to get here? I mean, today it takes forever for mail to reach you. But yeah, probably the same. But anyways, when the letter gets to him and it says, come home, come home. And he wrote back, I am home. And he defied his uncle, the Rebbe, and stayed here in Eretz Yisrael. And Baruch Hashem, he was here when the few survivors of the Chassidut came back here in the 40s. He became the Rebbe, and he has a beautiful Beit Midrash at the edge of Mea Sharim, the edge of Mea Sharim that's toward the old city, if you know the neighborhood. And I remember him. He was one of the few Hasidic people that Kippot Srugot would come into the Beit Midrash to hear him speak. He was an amazing person, and a lot of his Sfarim have become very popular in the modern Orthodox Dati Leumi or Chardal community. And for some reason, his Purim material didn't get into the regular work. So Purim and Hanukkah were like in separate volumes like this. But anyways, he says, So you're supposed to do, Purim is supposed to be an avodat Hashem, a service to Hashem, and then it says chayav inish lebisume beporia, that you have to do something on Poria. Delo amru lebisume biyayin. Doesn't say you're supposed to get drunk biyayin. You're supposed to imbibe ela lebisume biporia. Purim is what you're supposed to imbibe on Yudalid Adar. And then he says, Sheyishtakir meha Purim atzmo. Get drunk on Purim, from Purim. Bechinat shikurat, as if you are shikur. V'lo miyayin, don't drink alcohol. Ki im mikol hagidluyim hanizgavim, because of the sublime revelations of the day, that should make you high on Torah, and you shouldn't have to drink. Shehen b'rechinat achat b'shana. It's a unique event during the year, and the uniqueness of the Guluyim Niskavim, sublime revelations of Hashem, that's what should make you absolutely drunk on Purim. But not drunk just on Purim, but drunk from Purim. And you should get so elated about these events that you have trouble distinguishing between the bad stuff that happened and the good stuff that happened. And that's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about this concept of what do we mean that I can't distinguish exactly between the good stuff, the Mordechai stuff, and the bad stuff, the Haman stuff. What does that mean? And we're going to take a look at two Kabbalistic authorities. The first one is the Ari. We're going to look at the Ari, and then we're going to look at the, Rabbi Nachman. Now, everybody's heard of this custom that started in Germany that says that you're not supposed to learn Kabbalah until you're 40 years old. Everybody knows that, right? Baruch Hashem, these gentlemen didn't know that. The Ari died at 36, and Rabbi Nachman died at 38. We'd be losing a lot if that German minhag that started as a response to what historic event? Shabtai Tzvi. As a response to the horrendous events that came about because of Shabtai Tzvi, the Rabbanim in Ashkenaz, specifically in Germany, came out with all sorts of takanot and gezerot against Kabbalistic material. And you can't do it till you're 40. That was about their life expectancy. So I mean that was sort of cutting down on the amount of study of Kabbalah right away. But Baruch Hashem, the Ari was before that gezerah, and Rabbi Nachman ignored it. So we were blessed with their Torah, Baruch Hashem. But the first Torah is written by Chaim Vital. Chaim Vital was the Talmud Muvak of the Ari. The Ari wrote very, very little. So the person that wrote for him was Reb Chaim Vital. And if you go to the cemetery and if you're not a Kohen, I suggest it very strongly. It's worth going. It's an interesting visit, and especially if you go with someone that knows their way around, to just see the graves of all these giants that lived in a very short amount of time in this very, very small place. I remember in 2000, there was an article in the New York Times Magazine about the millennium, and they were talking to historians about if you could go to any place during the last millennium, from 1000 to 2000, where would it be? And it was fascinating. Somebody wanted to visit with Gutenberg. Somebody wanted to visit with Newton. Somebody wanted to be there when the Brits surrendered at Yorktown. Okay. So anyway, so there were different. Just gotta get that in. So anyways, they were. So that conquest was temporary because the Beatles reconquered America in 1964. But anyways, so when I read this article, the first thing I could think of, wow, would I love to have visited Tzfat in 1570, when this tiny little hamlet had such a collection of Torah giants, Reb Moshe Cordovera, the Ari, the Mechaber, and it was just a few blocks of space. It's like you couldn't walk down the street without hobnobbing with Torah giants. I would have, that's what, but anyways, nobody asked me. So that's why I throw it into different classes so I can say it, because, I didn't get a message from the New York Times. But anyway, so we're going to, Chaim Vital, when you go to the cemetery, is buried literally perpendicular to the grave of the Ari. The Ari is buried like this, and then perpendicular at his feet is Reb Chaim Vital. He remains at the foot of his Rebbe in perpetuity. It's just a beautiful thing to see. unless you're OCD, because it really messes up the order. Yes, there was some.
You just have to be prepared to walk 100 steps.
Oh yeah, a lot of steps. A lot of steps.
Rail.
Gee, the last time I think they were. I think they're putting up railings.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're putting up
My
railings.
son lives there. And he walks-
Yeah. No, it's a lot of steps down. It is. It's a lot of steps down. Okay, so this is what Reb Chaim Vital writes in the name of his Rabbi, the Ari. That which our rabbis of blessed memory have said, that a person is obligated to drink on Purim until he no longer knows the difference between cursed Haman and blessed Mordechai. That's fine. That's just the translation of what we did. This means as follows. It is known that in every klipa there is a spark. Okay, you've got klipot and nitzotzot. Okay, you've got shells and you've got sparks, and that the job of this world is to somehow break through the shells to get to the sparks. The shells, by their nature, are negative because they're hiding the sparks, and somehow we have to get through those shells to get the good stuff, the spirituality, which is in the sparks. Okay, this is a basic Kabbalistic idea of how the world works. And by the way, for the Kabbalists, the reason that Jews are in Chutz La'aretz, are in Galut, is to recover the sparks that are resident in those locations. And once all those sparks have been recovered, and then everybody can come to Eretz Yisrael. I'm not sure I totally subscribe to this, but it's an interesting idea that answers up some problems. But let's go back to, you've got the shells and you've got the sparks. And should it be removed, the klipa, well, we'll be left with no gesundheit, with no vitality, and immediately it will totally disappear. In other words, even though we don't like the klipot, but there is a job for the klipot. Okay, think oranges. Okay, we don't like the rind, but it's necessary for the protection and the growth of the orange. Was that a bad example? Should I use pomelos? I mean, then you really got a klipa, a serious klipa when you do talk about pomelos. But whatever it is, you get the idea. It's not. So in other words, we don't really want the klipa, but is the klipa evil? I mean, it's a question. I mean, it's you can think about it. I don't know. It's necessary, but really negative. Really, I don't want it. Okay. I'm sorry.
Some people can make jelly out of it.
Some people can make jelly out of it, I guess. Marmalade, something. Okay. It's not. Okay. Now, on this great day, I'm in the fifth line. On this great day, Purim, okay, when there is great illumination is connected to the sparks, right? We want the vitality of this illumination to reach this spark as well. There is spiritual illumination, but the sparks are hidden from it, but you'd like them to all get together, okay, and make a greater illumination for everybody. We want the vitality of illumination to reach the spark as well, but not that it should reach so far to illuminate the klipa. For this reason, a person must get drunk on this day to the point that he does not know the difference between cursed Haman and blessed Mordechai. Therefore, he must say blessed Haman to draw light also to that spark. And therefore, he must say it without intention. Here's the problem, according to the Ari. I want to say good things about what Haman did, but I don't want my blessing for Haman to in any way keep him going. In other words, Haman was the catalyst for a lot of good stuff to happen. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to come back to that idea in a couple of minutes. But on the other hand, I don't want my good feelings to in any way perpetuate the memory or the seed of Haman, because that's a Malak. I want to eventually get rid of that. So I've got a problem. I want to feel good about something, but keep it from receiving a true bracha, which will perpetuate it. Because bracha, when done with correct hitlahavut, with correct passion and kavanah, intention, has tremendous power. So I want to say good things about it, what it was that Haman did, but I don't want Haman to receive the benefit of it. So I get drunk, or I get high on the spirituality, and I say, I giggle a blessing for Haman in such a way that it's not a real blessing. But I've acknowledged his part in the story because he's a necessary component to the story. Go to the back of the page for 1 minute. Bottom. Okay, I want to quote from a famous Gemara in Megillah that is very well known. It says, "The Yasah." This is from the 4th verse in the chapter, in chapter 3. Now the story goes on. Okay, no, 6 verse further. The Yasah Melech et Tabato. The king took off his ring. Amar Rabbi Abba Kahana Gedola. So Rabbi Abba, who was the high priest, said, "Hasara Tabat." The taking off of that ring, Yotir, was greater for the Jewish people. May Arba Abayim Ushmona Nevi'im was greater than the 48 prophets that are listed in the Gemara and Baba Batra. Okay, the Sheva Neviot and the 7 female prophetesses, Shenitnaba'u Lahen Yisrael, who gave prophecies to Israel. What is prophecy? Be careful here. It's not what you think in English. What is prophecy? Message from God. Excellent. Communication. Prophecy in Judaism is not a prediction. Very few of our prophecies, percentage-wise, maybe 10%, 12%, whatever it is, it's a small percentage, include a prediction for the future. Prophecy in general is chastisement, is a message from God to the Jewish people. And generally it is, cut it out. Generally, that's the message. Whatever it is, cut it out. And so what happens is, Shekulan lohich zirum lemutav, none of those 48 plus 7, none of those 55 prophets really dented our bad behavior and brought us back to the good. But when that ring came off and the Jews, mamish, were in trouble, what happened? Oh, those Jews became Jews again right away, okay? Not only did the Jews become Jews, but even a lot of the Goyim became Jews. It really had a tremendous impact, that removal of the ring. So what we're saying here is a lot of credit goes to Haman. It's a weird thing to say. So we want to give credit to Haman in a way that we recognize his role without him specifically and his seed specifically benefiting. And so how do we do that? We get drunk. We do it without kavanah.
Excuse me, interruption.
Sure. No interruptions. Question.
You could say the same about Pharaoh, and even Yamach Shema, you could say the same about Hitler, because all their intentions and all they did only came to better Israel, or to make them, put them in a position, where they, redeemed or whatever.
Became stronger.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar.
Only 7.
Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar are mentioned by Chazal as cat's paws of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, as they were the Caleb that Kadosh Baruch Hu used. Hitler brings us to a more difficult problem, and man, this deserves its own share. And I'm not going to do it justice, and you're going to forgive me. I'm going to say it, and I don't. Maybe afterwards, if people want to stop and schmooze more about it, that's fine. But I do want to finish my material because there's a point I'd like to make. But no. It's a fine point. Hitler for me is a bigger problem, and because yes, it was part of the deal that we were supposed to suffer in Egypt and then get the Torah, and even Nebuchadnezzar was fulfilling the prophecies of Yechezkel. But if someone came to me in 1930 and said, these are your choices. You can get the Medina if you let Hitler, rise, or you can, things can muddle the way they're going through heavens knows how long. I would have chosen for muddling personally. I mean, sometimes the price seems too high.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I maybe in 100 years, our great grandchildren will be able to look at this with more dispassion than I can. So I really, I hear this idea all the time, and but I have to be honest. Whenever anybody tried to rationalize or give reasons for the Shoah, my skin crawls. I just can't handle it. And it may be because we're still too close. Everybody in this room knows or knew survivors. Maybe someday we'll have the,
I think you're gonna have to talk to me because I'm a child of the survivor parents.
yeah.
And
I just can't handle it.
And you wouldn't want to hear what I have to say.
No, I think we're going to agree. I think I could be wrong, but I think we're going to,
But my point was only,
the Hester Purim of the Holocaust for me is still unexplainable.
my point was never mind. Never mind. I mean, the point was the key that the Almighty uses people in this way. That's all I'm trying to say.
I know. I just have. I'm sorry.
At what cost?
At what cost? I just can't. Putting
No,
Yamach Shemo into this. I just can't. I can't handle it. Maybe in a century people can, but I can't.
But if Haman succeeded, he would have gotten the same thing that.
Well, he didn't even come close to succeeding.
Because
Hitler had
God
success.
Yeah, God interfered.
Hinami. So then you have questions on God. I mean, the Shoah. That's why the Shoah just presents us with questions that I'm not ready to
How
deal with.
many people did Nebuchadnezzar and Pharaoh? How many Jews did they kill?
Percentage of the population was relatively small.
And there was a-
We're not, look what we're talking about, and we're talking about, 40%. I mean, that's, I just think it's, I'm not ready to handle it. My great-grandchildren, maybe they can handle it. I can't handle it. So I apologize,
I've
but
been for 100 years.
yeah, then we can schmooze about it. It is just, I can't handle it. And whenever I hear people try, like I said, my skin crawls. I just say, really? I usually feel, I start talking about, Eza Chutzpah. I just have, okay.
Well, there's-
And I'm sure you have more difficulty. I mean, I'm
No, because I truly understand why the Holocaust happened, but it's too long of a discussion here.
so, Yom HaShoah is on the way. Let's schedule something.
We have to have a lot of emunah on the topic.
Yes, yes. We'd have to have a lot of emunah and bitachon.
With two brothers and a sister.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
he
think-
knew about the war before and he warned people, but the point is that if you really look through history, which is the same thing happening now, a point and example, when Israel went to war, the French people said, what do we have to do with Israel that we're going to war? We're French, we're not Jews. So I'm going to ask you a question. When you lived in America, if you did, were you a Jew living in America or were you an American living as a Jew? And then you will understand why the Holocaust came.
Well, I think generally the people that made Aliyah definitely consider themselves Jews living in America, not Americans who happen to have been Jewish.
Well, when I was in
Or if
America,
we were Germans, we would have said,
What
Germans
did
of
the
Hebrew
Germans
persuasion.
What do the Germans say? We are Germans.
Yeah.
This can never happen to us.
I apologize.
I think one has to accept, although you can't rationalize it, there's such a thing as pure evil in
Yeah.
this world.
Well, we're going to see that's actually the
You can
argument.
read it individually.
That's going to be the argument here, actually. I agree with you. Yeah, but that's actually being the argument. So what the Ari said was, we don't want to deal with Haman, the Russia, Amalek, getting any benefit. Therefore, even though I'm acknowledging his part, his role in this scenario, I don't want him to benefit. Therefore, if I say a bracha, it's because I was drunk, and he gets no benefit. That's the position of the Ari. Let's take a look at Rabbi Nosson, and just like the Ari, Rabbi Nachman didn't write that much. He did write some more than the Ari, but Rabbi Nosson was his amanuensis who ended up writing most of his material. So Rabbi Nosson says, this is the aspect of a person is obligated to drink a Purim until he no longer knows the difference between cursed Haman and blessed Mordechai. For Purim is the primary time for subjugating the filth of the serpent. Now, that's the English translation. The Hebrew is Zuhama Shel HaNachash. What's the Nachash? What's the serpent? That's back to the Garden of Eden. Zuhama, which in modern Hebrew we translate as pollution.
Infection.
Well, it could be infection also, but generally when you see a newspaper article, it's usually going to be pollution, Zuhama. Okay, so in other words, what happened was the sin that was initiated by the Nachash brought something bad to the world that we refer to as Zuhama, whatever that bad stuff was. Okay, so he calls it, he refers to it here as filth, but okay. Which is sadness. The aspect of in sorrow shall you eat it means in throughout life, Bitsar, you're going to eat your food. Now, his life is going to be tough because of that sin. Therefore, a person is obligated to drink. That is, to get drunk on Purim. Now, he means really drunk. He's not agreeing with the Slonimer. The Rabbi Nachman meant you really get drunk. Okay, I don't know how good that was for his case of tuberculosis, but anyways, I have no idea. Therefore, a person is obligated to drink, that is, to get drunk on Purim for the sake of the joy, as it is written, wine that gladdens the heart of man. Okay, we say that every Rosh Chodesh. Yain yisamach levav adam. And he must increase the joy until he merits, by way of the drunkenness and the joy of Purim, to reach the aspect of the goal of knowledge. What is the goal of knowledge? Remember, they ate from the tree of Da'at. They ate from the tree of knowledge. So what's the goal of knowledge? What's the true goal of knowledge? That we are not to know. The true goal of knowledge is to understand there are things I don't understand. That's the true goal of knowledge, is to say all of this material, all of these answers that I have gathered, all this means is I can better define the questions. You know what the fascinating thing I find about science in my lifetime? That they're always looking for someone to find something, a new subatomic particle, okay? Something new in outer space, okay? Every time they find something new, there are more questions than before we found that particle or that quasar or whatever. It doesn't make a difference what it is. We now realize that we know less. And what's fascinating is it's big and it's expansive and it's beyond our ken, both in the macro, the larger you get, the less we understand, and in the micro, the smaller you go, the less we understand. The goal, according to Rabbi Nachman, the goal of knowledge is to come to the point where you say, I don't get it.
Well, isn't that why people, the older you get, the more you realise you don't know?
Oh, I thought that was because I had children who informed me of the fact that I don't get it. I thought I was very smart until I had children. Okay. Really until they became teenagers. Then I really found out how stupid I was. But this is a fascinating idea. So in other words, when I drink, it's going to help me get to this point, okay? For the primary hold of good and evil, which is the aspect of blessed Mordechai and cursed Haman, is from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the root of which stems from a whisperer separates close friends. Now, that's Nirgun. That is the snake. The snake, right? That's a whisperer, right? Whisperer, okay? That the snake separated us and gave us the distinctions, okay? This is the aspect of until he no longer knows the difference between curse and harm and blessed and broken. But there we cannot talk about good and evil, for there is all one. All is good. This is very different than the Ari. And he's going to explain that a little bit better in the next paragraph. What is the Rebbe saying, Rabbi Nachman? If it exists, it can't really be bad. And, I hear he says it, and he's going to explain a little bit more. We're going to go to the next paragraph, and we'll see he's going to, sharpen the point a little bit. But it's a difficulty. I feel personally more comfortable with the position of the Ari, that I can recognize that out of these very negative situations and people and sources, good things can end up coming from it. And therefore, I recognize it, but I don't want them to benefit from my feelings about it. On the other hand, Rabbi Nachman is saying it a little bit differently. And here's the next quote, which is actually written by Rabbi Nachman. No, da, okay, da. That the root of the entire creation is kavod, is glory. Everything that was created is here for a purpose and a reason, and therefore everything is ultimately good. For everything the Holy One, blessed be He created only for His glory. As it is written, everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. As you can see, quote from towards the end of Yeshayahu. Since everything was created for his glory, blessed be he, his glory is the root of all creation, even though he is entirely one. Nevertheless, creation consists of parts, and each and every part of creation has a unique aspect of glory, which is its root as stated above. This is the aspect of, by 10 utterances was the world created. Could not all have been created by one utterance? Couldn't have God just say, or say nothing? Snap his fingers, her figurative fingers, okay? And then everything comes into creation. Couldn't have, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, Vayehi Or, and, or why did God have to, separate it into 10 different statements? Why? Okay, because it's letting us know that everything has its place. No, I'm in the next paragraph. Know that one must judge every person favorably. Wow, everybody has to be done, l'kol adam l'kav zchut. Everybody has to be judged favorably. And even in the case of totally wicked man, one must search and find in him some small amount of good. That's not what the Gemara meant. When the Gemara said, done l'kol adam l'kav zchut, it didn't mean if you know that they did something wrong. He's really taking the concept out of context. You don't have to be done l'kav zchut if they've just been paskined a Russia. In other words, someone comes out of court and the court just voted, this guy's a Russia. You don't have to be done l'kav zchut because the court already was done l'kav chov. That they already have sentenced him. They've already condemned him. So this is talking about in human relationships. So the Rebbe is, to prove his point, is taking this concept a little bit out of context.
Isn't that what Hasidus is all about?
Taking things out of context. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay, I'm not going to. I'm a Litvak. I'm not going to argue with that analysis. Okay, but it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing, and maybe this is something we could do another class on some other time. Neo-Hasidus is a big deal, and Neo-Hasidus has reached into to bastions of Lithuanian Jewry. And it's just a fascinating. YU actually now has a mashgiach who representing Neo-Hasidus. It's I can't remember his name. He's a rabbi out in the Five Towns, and he has Titian, and it's really so. We could talk about that phenomenon. It's a fascinating phenomenon. Some other time. By finding in him a small amount of good and by judging him favorably, this is a wonderful idea in interpersonal relationships. And I'm not disagreeing with him, as a teacher and talking about sociology. However, it's not true in Jewish law. In Jewish law, when you've got a bet din, they paskin. This guy is zakai, and this guy is chayav. This guy is innocent, and this guy is a rasha. I mean, that's a rasha by definition. So okay. But his point is a good one in general. Okay. By finding him a small amount of good and by judging him favorably, one truly elevates him toward merit and can cause him to repent. This is the aspect of for yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be, and you shall look well at his place, for he will not be there. This is the verse warns one to judge everyone favorably. Not exactly, but okay. For when we find in him a small amount of good, some good point, and judge him favorably, through that we truly remove him from liability to merit, and that's a beautiful idea, but not halachic. Okay.
It does say once the Bali leave,
You're right. You're right. That you try to be kind to them. However, if you're going to do business the next day,
you're not going to trust
it is wrong to trust the guy who's been convicted. Okay, it's not just you do your best to treat him well, but you do not have to be done the kaskut the next time you go to him to fix your car engine, right? If he's already been in jail for ripping off his clientele. Yeah, please.
I probably go along with this the things front end. When it comes to people, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
The person who's bad is going to be bad, and then you can't say that God created them good. It was a good example, for example.
Okay. So, no, fine. We've got two positions here about what it means to not know the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Orah Haman. One of them is, and I'm personally more comfortable with this position. There really is evil in the world, and we don't want the evil to benefit from our religious practices and our brachot, and we just don't want it to happen. And even though I have to acknowledge the participation, I don't want them in any way to merit from it. That's the Ari, and I feel, however, there's a lot to be said for the position of Rabbi Nachman, which is, if it exists, it's here for a reason. If it's here for a reason, then it redounds to the greater glory of God, and it therefore is almost by definition good.
Is there no concept where there's good in everything, however, and Hashem can, as he did with Paro, cause him to oppress the Jews, and where he may have initially used Yimach Shemo to do something similar, but he got carried away. He went far, far beyond anything that Hashem may have designed, and it ran away with itself. And
it's a possibility. Yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. However, what's fascinating about Pharaoh is Pharaoh was a bad guy who at some point wasn't bad enough, and God had to push him to, there is something in the analogy, but all analogies by their nature are facile, right? Nothing is ever exactly like something else. But no, I cannot disagree whatsoever with your point. And it's not that far. Your point is not that far, by the way, from the Ari. The Ari is basically saying, there is inside that klipa, inside that negativity, there is a spark. And sometimes we need that spark. So we benefited from, the evil, from the bad, and, but I still want to continue to categorize it as bad, as opposed to Rabbi Nachman, who really feels like ultimately everything, I don't know what he does with klipot ultimately. Everything is redeemable. In other words, you can eat that, or make marmalade out of that peel, and everything everything is usable. It's like when I was in school, they used to talk about the Native Americans. That's okay? I can say Native American. I never know what to call them anymore. Okay.
Elizabeth Warren.
I'm sorry?
Elizabeth Warren.
Okay, Native Americans. Then one of the points they made was that they took advantage of everything in the buffalo. That was like a cool idea, and a positive thing. And so, but that's getting to Rabbi Nachman. That's getting to Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman is closer to the position and the point that you were making just a few minutes ago. I still have trouble with it, but it's a fascinating position.
I understand that you have trouble, and I understand a lot of people have trouble. But if they really would think a little bit deeper about Hashem and what his goal in the world has to be, they would understand that. But a lot of people don't have enough amun and batachon in the generations, and they have a hard time with it.
Yeah. No, you're good. But the way you just said it is very close to, of course, is of course to Rav Aviner, that hang on, the Yeshua, the refuah is on the way. It's already been planned and set out. So I want to end with something for the Maharal. The Maharal wrote fascinating stuff about Purim. And he makes the following point. Now, we're getting ready, of course, for Pasha Zachor and talking about Amalek. And, of course, Haman is Amalek, and Hitler was Amalek. And, and Amalek, is living just a few miles south of us. I mean, Amalek is around, right? Okay. This is the bottom line. I like it when somebody says that. You'd like to feel, I got to Shura HaTachtona. You want to feel you got there. This is the bottom line. Amalek has so far removed himself from true reality as to be considered simply a thing apart. So in other words, he's saying there are things that are beyond the pale. And Amalek has placed himself there. Therefore, as long as Amalek exists in the world, it cannot be said that God is one and his name is one. His answer to Rabbi Nachman, I know he lived 200 years earlier, okay? But theoretically, his answer to Rabbi Nachman, one died in 1609, the other died in 1809. That his theoretical answer to Rabbi Nachman is no, you're wrong. That Amalek is only ultimately cool when he is eliminated, because we believe, and the psukim seem to be saying that the true kvodo shel hamakom, the true glory of God, kisei hakavod, yad al keska, that the hand of Amalek is against the throne of Hashem, and Chazal say that the aleph is missing from the word kisei, because the throne isn't complete until Amalek is eliminated. And so we're still trying to eliminate this negativity so that the positive can truly come to the fore. Therefore, as long, as I just read that, for this reason, they are deserving of obliteration. Something not easy for us to say, but some things just have to be eliminated. For the sake of the future, for God will be one only after Amalek has been evicted from the oneness of God. And so only when this, whatever term you want to use, this cancer, this virus, this vermin, this zuhama, has been eliminated, only then can we get the true glory of Hashem. How does Rabbi Nachman, deal with this position, who says everything? He would say, yes, but even Amalek can be turned to the good side. It's almost like Rabbi Nachman talking in a Harry Potter in a Harry Potter idiom. He's or in a Star Wars, either one. He's on the dark side. Dark forces. Okay, but you can turn it. You can turn it to the good. And therefore, that's how you have done it. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. However, whenever anyone learns, you bring with it your experience and your thoughts. And I'm personally much more sympathetic to the position of there are just some things in the world that have to be literally eliminated. And not everything can be redeemed. I hate to disagree with Rabbi Nachman. He's one of my spiritual heroes, but I feel more at ease with that position.
Well, didn't Hashem tell us that we have to get rid of our enemies, and we didn't listen to him in order?
And then we came back, and I think that I agree with you. He doesn't say, but Rabbi Nachman would say it means to turn them. But I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm on your side, okay? But I think it's important that we realize that when when you start to think about this, you really can sometimes say, I don't know the difference, because the differences are so complicated and philosophic that really not everyone really does understand what we're talking about here. These really are deep philosophic issues, and we're still struggling with them, now, 2,500 years after the event. Not only are we struggling with them, in many ways we feel like we're reliving them, especially when today the greatest threat to our Medina, Bidiyuk, comes from Paras. And, it's not just that history repeats itself, it's just that we continue to live with these issues until that day when Amalek truly has been eliminated. And, may it be Meher of Yemeinu, may we all live to be Zochet to see it. And then hopefully we'll really understand whether Rabbi Nachman was right or or the Ari was right. But it's really a complicated issue. And Purim, more than any other holiday, presents us with conundrum. It's a complicated festival. The one festival that takes place in Galut, the one festival in the diaspora, and the one festival that really is the hardest to exactly fathom what happened and what it means for us.
That's why we get drunk, because we're in the conundrum.
Yeah, we don't have a solution to the conundrum. We get drunk, or we take a nap, or we get high on the holiday, as the Slonimer said. But what's most important is we rejoice the victory. And as difficult as these issues are, it's very important to have a freilich in Purim, because we do have to be happy for all of the victories, even though the Purim victory wasn't complete. So, Purim Sameach to everyone, and thank you so much, and thank you, of course, to our Mechutin for having us back here in Ashkelon.